Running a brokerage is hard work, so whether you're focused on building your own sales pipeline, hiring the best agents, leveling up your team's production, or protecting the culture you've built, you're in the right place. Real estate brings the challenges, and we share the solution. Welcome to the show dedicated to broker entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Brokerpreneur Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur Podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the Doctor of Flow. I'm here as usual with the big guy, Matt Vi. Matt, how's it going?
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Everybody's going to see this in just a second. They can probably see it right now. I'm so excited about the jersey behind our guest. It's not even funny. We'll talk about that maybe in just a second.
Yeah, for sure. And so let's bring on our guest right now so he can be part of the conversation. We have Steve Fretzin, who's president of Fretzin Inc. He's an author, he's a speaker, podcast host of Be That Lawyer. Steve, how you doing today?
Hey, Ben, Matt, doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Absolutely. We're super glad that you're here. Matt did mention, and so if your guys are listening to this, you don't know what we're talking about, but it's a red jersey and it has a 2 and a 3 on it. So now you probably know what we're talking about.
You don't need to say anything else.
Tell everybody where you're located, and that'll let them know why that's important.
Yeah, if I've got a red jersey behind me and it's got the number 23, I'm from Chicago. I lived here my whole life and huge Chicago Bulls fan from back in the day. And I was saying to you guys that I'm not like a collector of sports memorabilia or anything, but this is my prized possession since 1995. My father and I split the cost of the autographed jersey. And then I said, I'll hold on to it though for us. That was my contribution to that. He seemed okay with it. So I went with it.
Done. You certainly got the great end of that. All right. So first of all, we met you through Scott Mason, right? We love Scott Mason. Scott Mason's just absolutely awesome. And so he said, we were in a conversation and he says, you guys know Steve. And we're like, no, we don't. Tell us a little bit about it. And he started telling us and we were like, okay, we've heard enough. We've got to get him on the podcast. He's absolutely incredible. That's going to be something that the audience is absolutely going to love. So you help attorneys, correct? Is that a big focal point of your business? You help attorneys stop struggling and actually run a business, right?
Yeah, the problem is that attorneys don't learn business development, how to run a business, marketing. All of those skills are completely skipped in law school. So they're coming out of a law firm, a big firm environment, or they're coming into, hey, I want to run my own firm, and it's just figure it out and hope for the best. And some of them do, some of them fail. And so my job is to say, hey, I'm not going to try to help you with everything, although I have the resources to do that. I really focus on the business development piece. How do you go out and develop clients and continue to produce business year after year? So at least your money and cash flow is good. And then the rest of the stuff of like, how do you figure out how to scale and all that? I usually farmed it out to some of my legal expert friends, because I am one of these guys that believes in specialization, and my specialization is lawyers and business development, and smash them together. And that's the house I sit in every day.
Yeah. So I love that. So how many times, this is why this resounds so well with our audience, right? So many times we talk to brokers and they're fantastic agents. They're great team leaders, and they strike out on their own to open a brokerage. And there's just so many other moving parts to it. And what a lot of them loved about in the real estate business, they don't get to do as much of that. And that's also what used to pay the bills. They don't get to do as much of that. And then the next thing just be like the E-Myth, right? Just because you're a great electrician doesn't mean you can run the electric company. And so is that something that you see a lot in what you do? Is that very similar?
Yeah, all the skills to run a business are learned, right? We learn from people that have been there and done that. We learn that from books. We learn that from experts that we engage with to show us the road. And so I've got just a really like a wealth of resources being in the industry for 16 years and working with lawyers where I can help them in certain areas, other people help in others, but together we work as a family to make sure that the people that want to go out on their own or that are on their own and want to scale up have everything at their disposal to do it without maybe making as many mistakes as they would just figuring out on their own.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I love the backstory, Steve. And so I love that foundation. And I always try and guess, was little Steve 5 years old playing with dinosaurs? And he's, you know what? I think when I grow up, I want to help attorneys scale their practices in business development. And so that probably is pretty close to how it happened. But if it's a little bit different, why don't you tell us just how you came to be in the law industry?
It's very different. My father is a lawyer. I was under the cross every day as a teenager. He always asked me, a dozen questions more than I wanted to answer. And so I never had an affinity to lawyers or the law. I enjoyed the way that his clients would talk about him. He was a very well beloved lawyer in the community and was engaged in the president of the school board. And so like growing up, he was very engaged in all that stuff. But I came up as a sales guy, and I worked my way up the food chain of sales jobs, and I ended up in franchising. So I was helping to sell specific franchises all over the country. And I had to go from being just a sales guy to being more of a business broker, helping people find a location, negotiate the lease, get them into a shop, help them hire, help them run ads, do all that stuff. And then they wanted to sell the business. Okay, now I got to put on that hat and I got to help them sell. So it really was transformational in helping me go from being more of a sales guy to a business guy. So I really knew that when I started a business, I'd be successful. I didn't know what it was going to be until I engaged a sales coach, which I didn't even know that was a thing. And I worked with a sales coach. He showed me all the ways to improve my life, myself, and the way I was doing things. And I said, hey, how do I do what you do? And he said, you pay me even more money and I'll show you. So I did that. And ultimately, still, by the way, never a glimmer in my eye that I'd work with lawyers. 2008, 2009 roll around, recession hits, lawyers get hit real hard. Mm-hmm. And all these entrepreneurs that I'd worked with in your space, in real estate and all these other, I've worked in over 50 industries, and they started coming to me in droves. And within 2 years, legal made up about 85% of my business. And so I said, here I am teaching these guys how to specialize. I hadn't pulled the trigger myself. There's that fear of giving up financial business, real estate business, all CPAs. But really what I wanted to do was I wanted to be the biggest player in a small place versus a nobody in a big place. Right. And so now I've become one of the top players in the legal game nationally and even internationally to some degree. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Every day I'm joyous with how I get to work with a very intelligent group of people. And the ones that are most ambitious are the ones I engage with. So every day is like a happy day for me because I'm not dealing with difficult people. I'm dealing with the best people.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you get those best people and they come and they say, yeah, I want to be that lawyer. I want to work with Fretzin Inc. You have an acronym that you use, and I want to talk about this. You have it's called talent. And I want you to take us through a little bit. Hey, I'm an attorney and hey, we're starting to work together and work on business development. I know that our brokers, our real estate broker owners, this is going to apply perfectly to them. And so I want to make sure we pick your brain on it. Why don't you tell us what talent means?
Yeah, I've come up with all these fun acronyms so that my clients can remember what they need to do when they're out in the field. And one of the ones I came up with years ago is called talent. And it's primarily because there's networking where you go out to events and you go out and meet people and you're just randomly meeting people and not really figuring out like who are the people that are most likely and that most likely to refer you, most likely to bring you business. And they have the attributes of people you would enjoy. So talent is a way to meet with an individual, let's say for coffee, and identify within a 30 or 1 hour meeting, is this person the kind of talent that I want to move forward with and spend more time with? Or is this someone maybe that isn't a good fit for me to keep investing time with? Because one of the biggest challenges in networking is just wasting time, meeting countless numbers of people and not getting any return on that investment of time. So talent stands for T is trust, finding a networker. And so, for example, if you're in real estate and you know that you network really well with real estate attorneys, okay, and there are people who can feed you business. So is it someone that you can trust in the sense of they showed up on time for the meeting, they seem to be like a good person, they committed to do something for you and they actually executed? It's when people start committing to things and failing to follow through that breaks trust. And so we're looking for people that we can count on, because that's a warning sign for the future. If you can't count on them early, they may not be dependable later on. So that's number one. Number two is authority. It's very frustrating when you meet a great person and they really are not an expert at what they do. And you refer them and then you hear back from someone, yeah, the person really wasn't a good fit. They're new in the game, or that they put on a good show, but at the heart of it, they weren't really very good at what they do. So I'm always telling people to really validate that someone is an authority in their space, that they have experience. Like people might say, oh yeah, I sell real estate all over Chicago. but really they're in like a small like part of Chicago and they don't really know the rest of the city. That's not good, right? They're just faking it till they make it. And that's not someone I want to refer. L stands for do business with people you like, people you enjoy, people you'd want to be friends with. The idea of me sending someone to someone I don't like because maybe they're an authority, but they're not tolerable person, that doesn't resonate with me. E stands for empathy. I just appreciate people who care about other people. I think if we're going to network and we want to be with people that we like, it also is helpful when I say, hey, I'm going to involve myself in a charity. And they say, yeah, I want to do that too. Good. We care about people. We liked helping people. And I want to associate myself with those individuals. The N in talent is network. This is a little more optional, guys, but I would say starting with networking with someone who has never been out and met anybody, someone that doesn't have their own clients, someone who's been in the dark. You can do that, but it's going to be a much longer time to scale up. Versus if I get a business owner who has all of his or her own clients and is a terrific networker, the likelihood that they're going to float business my way is much greater in a much quicker turnaround than someone who, again, has been just sitting at their desk and just doing everyone else's work for X number of years. And then the last is T, is top player. I'd rather work with an owner. I'd rather work with someone who's a shaker and a mover and a top player in their space than someone that was, again, just holding everyone else's water. So again, the last two I would say are the most flexible because sometimes it's good to catch someone. Like, let's say you're looking to network with someone that's newer, but like tremendous potential in their future, and you're getting in early with them. That could pay off big dividends. But other than that, I'd rather work with someone who's been around 20 years and would like to do business with me and refer me and such. That's just going to be a much quicker advancement.
Yeah, I love that. And I got to turn this over to Matt just for a second, right? Because Matt, that our audience, man, they're so focused. They listen to us because they want to grow their brokerage through recruiting more real estate agents, obviously. Now, we could take the acronym TALENT, of course, and everything that he talked about is 100% in play with agents or with brokers who want to network with other agents.
Yeah, 100%. I love the acronym, right? It's like we both work for the government, man. It's like we love an acronym. And so I think it's a great way to keep it in people's head the right way. That's so important. Having something that they can quickly go to and it keeps them on track. I think that's absolutely fantastic. From a recruiting standpoint, all of these match extremely well, right? So I love that you shared that, and it's something that can directly translate to other areas of business, right? Like a real estate broker that's trying to hire agents. So pick one of these out of the acronym and just dig into it a little bit more for just a second, because there's probably one that comes up a lot, that whenever you start talking to some attorneys and you're helping them to go through this, there's probably one of them that comes up a pretty decent amount that maybe they struggle a little bit more with than the other ones, right? Can you talk to us about it? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would say the one that maybe is easiest to pick apart is the network. And again, I don't want to talk people out of meeting with new people, but if you've got someone that is, again, behind a desk, they're not out in front facing with clients, they're not front facing networking, you never see them out at events, and you're networking with them and they're just not going to be in a position to A, get it, and B, maybe advance your interests. So you're helping to advance their interest. That's what networking is, a give and take of how we help each other. And I give to someone and that's great. I give to them again, that's great. But they just don't have the network to draw from to really reciprocate. And that can be incredibly frustrating.
Hey, Dr. Ben here. I hope you're enjoying this episode. If sometimes you feel overloaded or alone when it comes to building your brokerage, I want you to know that we are here for you. There's so much support available to agents, but hardly any dedicated to brokers. I want to personally invite you to schedule a complimentary strategy call where Matt will help you build a 3-step profitability plan that will immediately produce results. This is not a sales pitch. There's no obligation. Simply click the link in the description below. Now let's get back to the show.
Again, I would just put it back to you guys to say, if you can find someone that's been around the block, that has deep ties in the community, that seems to know everyone, they're the mayor of the town in some way, shape, or form, maybe not literally, but you're just going to get much further, much more quickly.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, I'm one of those guys, Steve, that if you say, Ben, hey, go to this networking group, and everybody's surprised when they meet me in person, because when they meet me in person, like, I don't talk a lot. I hardly ever say a word. when I'm on this podcast, man, I love asking questions. I love learning about our guests and basically just being involved with experts. Now, you mentioned in an interview with this gentleman, he said, I go to these places, I feel like I'm walking up to someone, I'm interrupting their conversation, or I'm just going up and I'm trying to talk about myself. And I feel like, gosh, it just makes me feel uncomfortable and it's awkward. You gave him the strategy, and I just thought to myself, I was like, man, this is brilliant. I wish I would have done that. You gave him the strategy of, you know what, if you're going to this network event, see if a couple days in advance, maybe you can get that guest list. Maybe you can reach out to a couple people on that guest list and say, hey, I'm going to this networking event. I just want to introduce myself. I hope that I meet you there. And then when you get there, you already got a friend.
Right.
Right. And I just thought to myself, I just love that. You said a lot more, but can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, these are like networking hacks, right? So I'm walking into an event with 50 people and I'm new and it's cold, and I'm not cold physically, but cold in the sense that I'm walking to a group of strangers and all that. But if I do a little planning ahead of time, maybe it's not quite so cold. And one thing that I talk about pretty regularly is if you're coming to an event for the first time and you can build a relationship with the person that's running the event, right? Email them, call them, say, hey, I'm coming to this event. Maybe they want me as a member, so there's like a reason for them to take me under their wing and say, hey, I'm coming to this event. I don't know anybody. I'm looking to meet lawyers. You think you'd be okay just like maybe introducing me around or walking me around to a few just so I can get a couple of people under my belt to get to know? And they're, oh, yeah, Steve, I'd absolutely love to do that for you. And they want me to feel welcome at home, and they want me to join, whatever the case might be. So that's one great way to walk in and immediately have someone take you by the hand and walk you around. Now, if you don't have that advantage, the other thing I think about is, all right, if I can just walk up to one person and there's a question I ask that ends up helping me through the rest of that hour, 2 hours I'm spending there. How long have you been a part of this group? Oh, I've been a part of this group for 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and I love these people. They're my favorite. Listen, I'm Steve. I'm new here, and I want to learn about you. And I want to tell you, I'm looking to meet lawyers. I know that this is a group of lawyers and accountants and financial planners and blah, blah, blah. Are there one or two lawyers that you think you could walk me up to and introduce me to just because I'm new and I don't really know anybody? They're going to absolutely love to have that job of making a good introduction and moving me around the room a little bit. And I find myself at the place where I'll proactively, when I'm the person who knows everybody, say to someone new, hey, who do you want to meet? And then I'll be the guy who walks them around. They're like, oh, I love this guy, Steve. He was so cool. He walked me around and introduced me to a bunch of people and made me feel right at home. So there's a win-win there if you can find someone to act as your advocate. So those are maybe just two of the more basic tips that I give to get into an event. And then there's stuff we do while we're there as well that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool, and such a great way of approaching it. I love the reach out to them ahead of time. Now, a big part of what people run into in a networking event or when brokers are trying to do some type of recruiting, man, the fear gets the best of you sometimes, right? You're worried about the rejection. You're worried about going in there and not meeting anybody. You're worried about the time that you spend. Is it really going to be worth it? And people get anxious about it, and they get nervous and they get scared. Again, the rejection kind of pops in their head. And a lot of people that feel that type of rejection or that type of fear so easily get over that when they know what to expect. And so reaching out ahead of time, man, I'm absolutely going to steal that. I'll give you credit for it whenever I share it with somebody, but just consider that stolen.
As long as I get credit, I'm happy.
Consider it stolen, right?
Yeah. Just like with my wife, I'm just looking for credit.
Yeah, there you go. Some checks on the right side column. Yeah, that's
it. That's it. The other thing is, you guys mentioned about people feeling salesy or people feeling they're interrupting and just all the angst that comes with networking. And the way I'm trying to get people to get comfortable is number one, be prepared. Like you should be prepared with an infomercial, and you should be prepared with questions. And what I think about is I'm not here to sell, and I'm not here to, at a networking event, to push my wares or push cards on people or any of that. I'm here to meet people and learn about them. And if you just prepare to a couple of questions to ask, what brings you here? Have you been a member of this group for a long time? What are some things you love about the group? What do you do? What's your area of focus? And then just be a great listener, hear what they're saying, and then know that when they finally come around and say, what do you do? you can customize and craft and in your head work around what your infomercial is so that it's going to resonate with them. And so those are the two things you need to be prepared for, not be prepared to sell or be prepared to convince anybody of anything. It's really more of a learning and fishing expedition to understand who in this room is someone that I can work with directly or that I can network directly so I can schedule a follow-up lunch, coffee, drinks, Zoom as a next step. And if I walk out of the room with 3 to 5 good people, I'm pretty happy. I don't think that I need to walk away with 20 people to follow up with necessarily.
Yeah, especially people that are a good fit. That's really what you want. 3 or 4 people that are a good fit is a huge takeaway from a situation like that. So you mentioned something just a second ago, and I wanted to point this out just to make sure that the listeners heard this. What you're really talking about is reciprocity. You're really talking about being there and being willing to help someone else, being willing to ask questions and listen to the answer, being willing to be honest and vulnerable and have a conversation with them and really get them to open up. I think sometimes when we go into networking events or when we're meeting people, or if it's a recruiting appointment, or if it's you're at an open house and one of your agents introduces you to somebody else and says, oh, so-and-so just started working in real estate and they're here or whatever. All of a sudden, all these thoughts start flooding in, and we get overwhelmed with trying to make the most of the opportunity. And what you said was just be there so that and have a plan, but be willing to accept the reciprocation of you asking those questions first. Be willing to have that conversation with them and ask them how they are and ask them what you can do to help them out. Because there's times when you go to networking meetings that some of the people that you're going to talk to are more scared than you are. There's times when you go to an open house and the agent that's in there is more worried about being in there because it's the first open house they've ever been. They're sitting down with a recruiting appointment to talk to you, and they're worried because they need to make a move, but they don't want to get taken advantage of, and they don't know if you're the right broker. Don't always assume that everybody else has it all figured out. Be empathetic to the situation. Look for the reciprocity, open up, ask the questions. And that's exactly what you just said. And it's a crucial point. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody caught that the way that they needed to catch that. Am I missing anything? Or
not really. And there's a question that I routinely ask. And so what I like about this question is I'm not committing to anything, but I'm demonstrating an interest in helping someone. And the question is, what should I be listening for in a good connection for you? And again, if I'm meeting someone for the first time, I don't know that I necessarily am in a position to give them my biggest client or introduce them to someone of influence. I've met them for 15 minutes. But asking the question shows interest. It shows caring. I want to hear what they have to say because now my head starts spinning with all the people I know. I realize I could be of great service to this person. Maybe now we should meet for that coffee in the next day or 2 or 5 or whatever. And that's going to set that relationship in motion. But I think asking that question is sometimes missed. And it's a great question to ask to demonstrate, hey, I want to help you. I just need to get to know you better.
I love that question.
Yeah, yes, that's so good. I have 2 questions left for you. I want to be super respectful of your time. The second one is going to be how do people get in touch with you, but don't answer that one yet. The first one is we're on YouTube all over the place, obviously. So it's on YouTube channel. It seems like you've got some pets and they're in some of your content, some of your YouTube shorts. So it's so funny. I just wanted to bring that up. Are those your pets or you just borrowed those for videos?
No, I've got Rocky, the cockapoo, and I've got Tootsie, the cat. And anything I see them doing that's remotely funny, cute, interesting, what I do is I try to then spin it into my business. So, for example, Rocky does this thing every night where he just goes in circles on the couch and he's making a bed. He's like trying to get the blanket just right or something. It's like a nesting thing that he does, his breed does apparently. And so what I did was, I don't know, you guys aren't old enough to know Benny Hill, but I put it to Benny Hill music. And then I'll say like lawyers going around and not figuring out business development. Like I'll come up with an angle with the animals that's cute for Instagram or for YouTube. And I get some pretty decent traction on those animal videos. Anyway, but thank you for asking. Those are my best buddies here. And they're in the home office with me all day. And so I take these breaks during the day and go hang out with them. And it's always fun.
Yeah, that's super cool, guys. You got to go to his YouTube channel and check that out. Speaking of that type of information, Steve, why don't you let every one of our listeners know how to get in touch with you and how to learn more about Fretzin Inc?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I'm all over LinkedIn. That's my number one channel. And it's, if you could just type in Steve Fretzin, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, like wherever you go, if you type in my name, there's only one Steve Fretzin. I'm unfortunately, they changed my last name years ago with my grandfather in Ellis Island. So it used to be Friedenstein. They changed it to Fretzin. So there's only like 25 of us in the world. If you have the last name Fretzin, then you're a part of my family. So it's easy to find. I've got a bunch of dermatologists too in the family, and you can always go to fretzin.com to go to my website and check that out. And I've got books, I've got videos, I've got podcasts, Be That Lawyer. So I'm very easy to find. And my kind of goal is to help lawyers around the world learn business development. If somebody wants to be a client of mine, great, we can talk about it. But I want to leave the industry better than I found it. And that's what I'm working for every day.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. We're super grateful that you came on the show, and we always love having everybody for a follow-up episode as well. So we got to have you come back 6 months, and we'll do this again. Steve, thanks so much for being on the show. Matt, any other questions before I put a bow on it?
I appreciate you saying I'm not old enough to know who Benny Hill is.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Although I do know who he
Thank you,
is.
guys. I so appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Matt's his uncle.
That used to be some fun stuff in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. You got to be careful looking at it on YouTube, though.
Yeah.
Awesome. Everybody listening, really quick, go in the links in the description below. Make sure you check out the links to Steve. And after you're finished looking through there and connecting with him, make sure you scroll down a little bit further and register for Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society. It's our free mastermind that we do every single Friday. So welcome to attend any real estate broker owner in the country. We'd love to see you there and meet our listeners in person live. We'll answer your questions. We'll have a good time, have a lot of laughs. But you got to register down below to get that login link sent to you every Friday. Matt, we bring on amazing guests, just like Steve Fretzin, for one reason alone. Tell them what that is.
Man, we just want to be part of your win.